The bank manager waited until the office door clicked shut before placing the sealed gray file between us. My husband had been dead for 3 days. His funeral flowers were still wilting in our living room, and I was still waking each morning expecting to hear him grinding coffee in the kitchen. Susan Blake folded her hands over the desk. Mrs. Mercer Robert instructed me to give you this only after his death. Inside was a trust statement. Current balance $742,184.63. My granddaughter Emma's name appeared beneath it. My son Daniel's did not. Then Susan placed a small brass key beside the file. The money isn't the part he was most afraid you would find, she said. For 28 years, my husband had gone to that bank every Thursday. That morning, I finally learned why. Let me go back. Robert Mercer was a man built from habits. He woke at 5:45 every morning without an alarm. He drank his coffee black from the same chipped navy mug. He folded the newspaper into perfect quarters before reading it. He polished his work shoes every Sunday evening, even after retirement. And every Thursday at 8:40, he went to the bank. Rain, snow, heat, illness, it did not matter. He would put on his navy coat, tuck a worn brown leather folder beneath his arm, kiss my forehead and say, "Back before lunch." For years, I teased him about it. "What are you doing over there every Thursday, planning a second life?" He would smile, just making sure the future behaves itself. That was Robert, a sentence that sounded like a joke until you realized he meant every word. We had been married 31 years, not perfectly, honestly. There is a difference. We argued over money over our son, over whether the thermostat needed to be at 72. We once went 3 days speaking only through the dog because neither of us wanted to apologize first. But I trusted him. Not because he told me everything, because I believed whatever he did was meant to protect us. We lived in a modest brick house outside Columbus, Ohio. 3 bedrooms, 1 maple tree in the front yard. A screened porch Robert rebuilt twice because he never believed contractors measured carefully enough. Our mortgage was paid. Our cars were ordinary. Our savings were solid. Nothing about our life suggested there was nearly $750,000 sitting in a trust I had never heard of. Our son Daniel was 36. He had Robert's smile and my ability to explain away bad decisions. That combination served him well. Daniel had started a contracting company at 28. It lasted 18 months. Then came a mobile home investment project. Then an online building supply business. Then a partnership with a man named Cody, who disappeared owing money to half the county. Every failure arrived dressed as bad luck. Every rescue began with a phone call to me. "Mom, I just need a bridge loan." "Mom, the bank froze the account." "Mom, Ashley and I could lose the house." I would listen. Then I would go to Robert. "He needs one more chance." Robert would look at me across the kitchen table. "How many last chances does one man get?" "He's our son." That does not make consequences stop being real. But usually he helped. Not happily. Not without paperwork. He required Daniel to sign promissory notes, show invoices, and explain where the money was going. Daniel hated that. He called Robert controlling, cold, suspicious. I called Robert careful and then quietly persuaded him to lend the money anyway. That was the rhythm of our family. Daniel fell. I softened the ground. Robert repaired whatever broke. Then 14 months before Robert died, something changed. He stopped helping. Daniel had asked for $42,000 to resolve a tax lien connected to one of his companies. Robert said no. Daniel stared at him across our dining table. "You have the money. That is not the same as owing it to you. I'm your son. I know exactly who you are." The room went silent. I was furious with Robert afterward. "You humiliated him." "No," he said. "I refused to finance him. He could lose everything." He has been saying that for 12 years. I accused Robert of giving up on our son. He looked tired when he answered. "No, Linda, I'm trying to stop helping him become someone we won't recognize." I did not understand what he meant then. Or perhaps I did and chose not to. Robert died on a Tuesday morning in October. He had gone into the garage to check a loose shelf. I heard something fall. When I found him, he was sitting against the workbench with one hand pressed to his chest. The ambulance arrived in 7 minutes. He was gone before they reached the hospital. Grief has a sound. It is the refrigerator humming in a kitchen where no one asks what is for dinner. It is one set of footsteps in a hallway built for 2. It is a navy mug sitting upside down in the drying rack because you cannot bring yourself to put it away. The funeral passed in fragments, dark suits, coffee in paper cups, wet leaves stuck to shoes. People telling me Robert had been a good man as though 3 words could contain him. Daniel cried harder than I expected. He held me beside the casket and whispered, "I've got you now, Mom." At the time I heard comfort. Later I would hear possession. The day after the funeral, he came to the house early. Ashley was with him. She brought a casserole no one ate. Daniel sat at the kitchen table and asked whether Robert had left instructions. What kind? A will, life insurance, business accounts? I looked at him. He seemed to realize he had moved too quickly. "I'm just trying to make sure you're protected. I have Helen for that." Helen Carter was our estate attorney. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. Of course. Then he asked whether the house was in both our names. I answered yes. He asked whether Robert had ever discussed transferring it into a family trust. I answered no. Ashley touched his arm. "Let your mother breathe." But her eyes stayed on me. 3 days later, Susan Blake called from First Community Bank. Her voice was gentle but formal. "Mrs. Mercer, your husband left instructions for you to come in privately." I went the next morning. The bank smelled like polished wood carpet cleaner and the faint burnt coffee scent common to every office in America. Susan led me past the teller windows into a private room. She had known Robert for almost 20 years. When she saw me, her eyes filled. He was very exact about this. That sounds like him. She handed me the sealed file. Inside was the trust statement. $742,184.63. Beneficiary Emma Mercer. Trustee an independent fiduciary company in Cincinnati. Daniel's name appeared nowhere. I stared at Emma's name until the letters seemed to separate. "My granddaughter," Susan nodded. "Your husband made the final amendment 6 months ago. Why didn't he tell me?" "I cannot answer that." Then she placed the brass key on the desk. "Safe deposit box 317. What's in it?" She looked at me carefully. "Mr. Mercer said there were records you would need if your son moved quickly after his death." The room seemed to tilt. "What records?" Susan stood. "I think you should see them yourself." I had entered the bank believing Robert had hidden money from me. I had no idea he had been hiding evidence. Safe deposit box 317 was in a quiet room behind 2 steel doors and a wall of polished brass compartments. Susan inserted her key first. I used Robert's. The lock turned with a small mechanical click that sounded much louder than it should have. She pulled out a long metal box and placed it on the table. "I'll give you privacy," she said. "Please stay." She hesitated, then nodded. I lifted the lid. Inside were no jewels, no stacks of cash, no hidden life waiting to explain why my husband had kept this from me. There was a black binder, a flash drive, 6 sealed envelopes, and 1 thick white letter with my name written across the front in Robert's square handwriting. Linda read this last. Of course. Even after death, Robert still had an order for things. I picked up the black binder. The first page was a summary. Loans to Daniel Mercer and associated businesses. The total at the bottom was $183,640. I read it twice, then a third time. That can't be right. Susan did not respond. She had the careful expression of someone who knew silence was safer than sympathy. The binder contained 12 years of records, checks, wire transfers, promissory notes, tax payments, attorney fees, emergency rent, business capital. Each rescue I remembered as one crisis had been preserved in exact numbers. Robert had documented everything. There was the $18,000 for Daniel's first contracting company, the $26,500 to settle a supplier dispute, the $14,200 in back taxes, the $31,000 Ashley said they needed to avoid foreclosure, then smaller amounts I had forgotten entirely, $5,000, $7,000, $9,000. Money had left our house so often that I had stopped noticing the door. Some notes carried Daniel's signature. Some included payment schedules. Almost none had been repaid. I sat back. "We could have helped Emma with college twice over." Susan looked down. "That appears to be what your husband eventually decided." The next section contained credit reports. Not Daniel's, Robert's. There were hard inquiries from lenders Robert had never mentioned. One came from a regional finance company in Kentucky, another from a private credit firm in Indianapolis. Attached to the second was a rejected application for a $275,000 business loan. The borrower was listed as Daniel Mercer. Under supporting assets, the application referenced my house, our house, the mortgage-free brick home where Robert had died. At the bottom was a scanned signature, Robert's name, but not Robert's hand. I knew his signature. I had watched him sign birthday cards, tax returns, permission slips, mortgage papers, and the receipt for my engagement ring. This version looked close, too close, but the final stroke on the R curved upward. Robert's always dropped. He forged this, I whispered. Susan's face tightened. I cannot make a legal determination. You know he did. She chose her words carefully. Mr. Mercer disputed the application in writing. I found the letter. Robert had notified the lender that he had never authorized use of the property as collateral. The loan was denied. Daniel had never told me. Neither had Robert. A memory returned with painful clarity. Daniel, sitting at our kitchen table 11 months earlier, saying a lender had changed terms unexpectedly. Ashley blaming corporate underwriting. Robert silent beside me, staring at Daniel in a way I had mistaken for cruelty. That night, I accused my husband of enjoying our son's failure. He had said only, "You don't know what I know." I had thought he was being dramatic. Now I held the proof in my hands. The flash drive contained folders arranged by year. Robert's organization. Clean. Precise. Almost merciless. The earliest files were scanned promissory notes, then emails, then text message screenshots. I opened one exchange between Daniel and Ashley from 8 months earlier. Daniel wrote, "Dad won't release anything while he's alive." Ashley replied, "Then stop asking him. Mom is easier." Daniel, "Once Dad's gone, she'll sign whatever I put in front of her." My chest tightened. Ashley's next message appeared beneath it. "We need to move before Helen gets involved. If the house goes into probate, we lose time." There was no misunderstanding in those words. No bad day. No financial desperation. Just planning. I clicked another folder. It contained photographs of our home, the deed, county tax records, an estimate of its current value, $468,000. A spreadsheet labeled Parent Asset Timeline listed, life insurance, home equity, retirement accounts, trust assets, estimated probate schedule. My grief became something sharper. I had spent 3 nights unable to throw away Robert's toothbrush. My son had spent months calculating how quickly grief might make me sign. Susan slid a box of tissues toward me. I did not take one. If I started crying, I was afraid I would never stop. Instead, I opened another email chain. Daniel had written to a financial consultant named Mark Ellis. He asked how soon an adult child could assume control of a widowed parent's finances if she was emotionally impaired by bereavement. The consultant responded cautiously. He recommended a power of attorney and warned that legal incapacity required medical evidence. Daniel replied, "She trusts me. Getting the signature won't be the hard part." The room felt smaller. The brass boxes along the walls seemed to close in around me. I remembered every time Daniel had called me soft, every time Robert had called me blind. Both had been telling me something. I simply preferred the version that hurt less. At noon, I met Helen Carter at her office. She read the binder while I sat across from her beneath framed law degrees and a watercolor of Lake Erie. When she finished, she removed her glasses. "Robert came to me 6 months ago. You knew." I knew about the trust and the estate protections. I did not know every detail in this box. Why didn't he tell me? Helen's expression softened. "He believed you would confront Daniel immediately." I would have. He believed Daniel would apologize. He would have. And Robert believed you would accept it. That landed harder than the documents. I looked away. Helen continued, "The trust is legally protected. Daniel cannot access it. Emma is the sole beneficiary. A professional trustee controls distributions for education, housing, and medical needs. And the house, yours, entirely. Robert's interest passed to you outside probate. Can Daniel challenge it? Anyone can file something. That does not mean they have a case." She explained the steps we needed to take. Freeze my credit. Change passwords. Revoke old account permissions. Record updated estate documents. Do not sign anything Daniel brought me. Then she placed the sealed white envelope on the desk. You should read this. My hands finally began to shake. I opened it. Robert's letter was 4 pages long. The first line nearly destroyed me. Linda, I am sorry I left you truth when I should have given you trust. I pressed my fingers to my mouth. He wrote that he had tried for years to warn me about Daniel, that every rescue made the next request easier, that our son no longer saw help as love. He saw it as access. Near the end, Robert wrote, I did not keep this from you because I doubted your intelligence. I kept it from you because I knew your love would make you forgive him before he had to change. I lowered the letter. For the first time since the funeral, I cried without trying to stop. Not only because Robert was gone, because he had understood my weakness more clearly than I did. My husband had not spent 28 years protecting money from me. He had spent 28 years protecting it from the son I kept rescuing. Helen did not let me drive home alone. She followed in her silver sedan and parked behind me in the driveway while I stood at the front door staring at the lock as though it belonged to someone else. The house looked unchanged. Robert's boots were still beneath the bench. His jacket hung on the hook near the garage door. A grocery list in his handwriting remained attached to the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a red apple. Coffee, batteries, dog food, Linda's tea. That was the cruelty of grief. The world preserved ordinary things long after the person who made them matter was gone. Helen waited until I opened the door. Do you want me to come in? Yes. The word came out before pride could interfere. We sat at the dining table where Robert had refused Daniel's last request for money. Helen placed her leather briefcase beside her chair and opened the flash drive on my laptop. There are more files, she said. I know. What you saw at the bank was financial. This folder is different. The label read, If Linda is left alone. My stomach tightened. Helen opened it. The first document was a draft durable power of attorney. My name appeared as principal. Daniel's appeared as agent. The signature line for me was blank. The document granted him authority over bank accounts, real estate insurance taxes, retirement funds, and medical billing. A second document authorized transfer of my home into an entity called Mercer Family Holdings, LLC. Who owns that, I asked. Helen searched the state business registry. Daniel filed the company 4 months ago. 4 months. Robert had still been alive. The next file contained brochures from 3 retirement communities. One offered assisted living, another specialized in memory care. The third was 40 miles away. I touched the glossy photograph on the cover. A silver-haired woman stood beside a garden fountain, smiling at a nurse. I'm 57. Helen's voice was quiet. I know. I still work 3 days a week. I know. I remember every payroll account I managed for 26 years. I know Linda. Then she opened an email between Daniel and Ashley. Ashley had written, if she stays in that house, she'll hold on to it forever. Daniel replied, not if we frame it as safety. After Dad dies, she'll be a wreck. We get the POA signed, move the house into the LLC refinance, and put her somewhere manageable. Somewhere manageable. I read those words until they stopped looking like language. My son was not discussing care. He was discussing storage. Another message followed. Ashley, what if she resists? Daniel. Then we document confusion, forgetting appointments, crying, not paying bills. Grief looks a lot like incapacity if you write it correctly. I pushed back from the table. The chair legs scraped hard against the floor. Helen closed the laptop halfway. Breathe. I am breathing. No, you're holding it. I stood and walked to the sink. Outside, wind moved through the maple tree, stripping yellow leaves from the branches. Robert had planted that tree when Daniel was 6. He said every boy should grow up beside something that would outlive his mistakes. I wondered whether he had known how many mistakes there would be. Small memories began rearranging themselves. Daniel asking where we kept the deed. Ashley suggesting I should stop driving at night. Daniel offering to simplify the online banking. A month before Robert died, he had asked whether I ever misplaced my medications. I laughed and told him I took 1 blood pressure pill every morning. He said he was only concerned. Now I heard the question differently. Not concern. Collection. Evidence being gathered before the crime. My phone rang. Daniel. His name glowed on the screen. Helen looked at me. You do not have to answer. I picked up. Hi, honey. My voice sounded almost normal. Mom, how are you holding up? I have better hours and worse hours. That's understandable. He paused. Did you go anywhere today? The question was casual. Too casual. I had an errand. What kind? Bank business. Silence. Only half a second. But I heard it. Everything okay? I think so. What bank? I looked at Helen. She shook her head once. Just some paperwork Robert left. Daniel exhaled. Mom, you shouldn't be handling complicated financial stuff right now. Why not? Because you're grieving. I've balanced school payrolls larger than some towns. That was before. Before what? He softened his voice. Before Dad died. There it was. The first stone in the path he planned to build beneath my feet. I appreciate your concern. I mean it. Let me come over tomorrow and help organize things. I'm not ready. Mom! The tenderness disappeared. We need to move quickly. Probate taxes, property issues. These things can become expensive if you wait. Helen is handling it. Silence again. Longer. That woman complicates everything. She is our attorney. She was Dad's attorney. The distinction was deliberate. Then Daniel sighed. Fine, I'll bring dinner tomorrow. Not tomorrow. Then Sunday. I'll let you know. He ended the call without saying he loved me. Helen waited. He knows something happened. Yes, he will increase pressure. I sat down again. What do I do? We protect you before we confront him. That afternoon we began. Helen contacted all 3 credit bureaus and froze my credit. We changed passwords on banking, retirement, email, utilities, insurance, and my phone account. We removed Daniel as an emergency contact where it gave him access to information. I signed a new durable power of attorney naming Helen temporarily with my younger sister Carol as successor. My healthcare directive went to Carol too. The next morning I visited my physician. I told Dr. Patel exactly why I was there. I need a cognitive evaluation. He looked surprised. Are you having symptoms? No, my son may claim I am. His expression changed immediately. He completed a full screening and documented the results. No impairment. No confusion. No diminished capacity. I left with a copy sealed in an envelope. It was humiliating. It was also armor. For the next 4 days, Daniel called every morning. He brought soup, changed a light bulb I had not asked him to change, moved Robert's mail into neat piles. He behaved like the devoted son neighbors could praise. I behaved like a tired widow, not helpless, just uncertain enough to keep him comfortable. He asked where the life insurance policy was. I said I could not remember. He asked whether Robert kept documents in the safe. I said perhaps. His eyes searched the room each time. Drawer handles, file cabinets, my purse. On Friday, Ashley called. We'd like you to come to dinner Sunday, just family. Her tone was warm, practiced. We want to talk about the future. What part of it? Your safety, the house, making things easier. I closed my eyes. Will Emma be there? Of course. I'll come. After the call, Helen said they may put documents in front of you. I know. Do not sign. I won't. That evening, Emma called from her bedroom. She spoke quietly. Grandma, Dad's been talking about your house. What did he say? That you won't need all that space now that Grandpa's gone. I gripped the phone tighter. Did he say anything else? He said you'd be better somewhere with staff. Do you feel safe there? Yes. Then she whispered, but I don't trust them with money. My heart hurt for her. You are not responsible for any of this. I know. She did not sound convinced. After we hung up, I returned to the flash drive. One final audio file remained. Robert had labeled it, Daniel voicemail May 14th. I pressed play. My son's voice filled the kitchen. If you keep blocking me, I'll make sure Mom believes you were hiding everything from her. The recording ended. For several seconds, the house was silent. Daniel had planned to use my grief as proof that I could not protect myself. So I decided to let him believe grief had made me easy. Daniel's house was 40 minutes from mine, in a development where every lawn looked measured and every porch light came on at exactly the same time. I arrived Sunday at 6. The sun had already dropped behind the rows of identical roofs, leaving a cold blue strip across the sky. Ashley opened the door before I knocked twice. Linda. She hugged me carefully as though I might crack. You look tired. I am tired. That's why we wanted you here. Inside the house smelled of rosemary chicken furniture polish and expensive candles. Daniel had replaced the dining table. The old oak one they once claimed they could not afford to repair was gone. In its place stood a long walnut table with brass legs and chairs upholstered in cream fabric. A new sectional filled the living room. Through the front window, I could see a black luxury SUV parked in the driveway. I remembered the $31,000 Robert and I had given them to avoid foreclosure. Apparently, hardship had leather seats. Emma came downstairs as I removed my coat. She hugged me tightly. "Hi, Grandma." Her voice was normal. Her eyes were not. Daniel entered carrying a bottle of wine. "Mom." He kissed my cheek and held me by the shoulders. "How are you feeling today?" The question sounded caring. The way he studied my face did not. "Better than yesterday." "That's good." He glanced toward Ashley. "We're taking it one day at a time." I almost laughed. He was narrating my grief for me. At dinner, Ashley filled every silence. She talked about a neighbor who had fallen in her kitchen, a coworker whose mother forgot to pay property taxes, an older widow who had been taken advantage of because no one helped manage her accounts. Each story ended in the same place: safety, support, simplifying. I cut my chicken into small pieces and listened. Daniel poured more wine into my glass. I covered the top with my hand. "I'm fine. One glass might help you relax." "I'm relaxed." Emma looked down at her plate. Daniel leaned back. "Mom, we've been worried." "About what?" "You being alone in that house." "I've been alone in it for 9 days." "That's not what I mean." Ashley reached across the table and touched my wrist. "Grief changes people, Linda. There's no shame in admitting things feel overwhelming." "They do." Her expression softened with satisfaction. Daniel cleared his throat. "Dad handled most of the complicated stuff." "No, he didn't." He paused. "I mean investments, estate planning, long-term decisions. I managed payroll for more than 4,000 employees. That was work." I looked at him. "What do you think money becomes when you bring it home?" Emma pressed her lips together. Daniel forced a smile. "No one is questioning your intelligence." Robert's letter came back to me. "I did not keep this from you because I doubted your intelligence." I placed my fork down. "Then what are you questioning?" "Your capacity to deal with everything right now." There it was, spoken more gently than in the emails but carrying the same blade. Ashley stood. "Maybe we should move to the living room." On the coffee table sat a dark blue folder. Daniel picked it up before I had even settled onto the sofa. We had some documents prepared. By whom? A consultant. What kind of consultant? Financial planning. He opened the folder. The first page was a durable power of attorney. My name was printed at the top. Daniel's beneath it. A yellow tab marked the signature line. "This is temporary," he said, "just until you feel stronger." I turned the page. The next document authorized him to access my checking savings investments, insurance records, and tax returns. The third transferred management of my house to Mercer Family Holdings, LLC. I touched the company name. "Who controls this LLC?" "I do, but only administratively." "What does that mean?" "It means I handle maintenance taxes, refinancing whatever needs to be done." "Refinancing." He shifted. "If repairs come up, the roof is 6 years old. That's not the point." "What is the point?" Ashley sat beside him. "The point is that you shouldn't be carrying all this stress alone." I looked at the documents again. "What happens to the house?" "It stays in the family," Daniel said. "Which family?" His jaw tightened. "Ours. Emma's name isn't anywhere. She's 17. The trust could protect her interest." The word slipped out deliberately. Daniel's eyes sharpened. "What trust?" I let a beat pass. "A family trust. You said the house should stay in the family." He studied me, then smiled. "That's exactly why I should manage it." "What does Emma receive?" "She is our responsibility." His answer came too quickly. "Not mine. Not Robert's. Theirs." Meaning they intended to control anything attached to her as well. I closed the folder. "I'm not signing tonight." Daniel's face changed. Not dramatically, only enough. The softness left first, then the patience. "Why not?" "I want Helen to review it." He stood. "Mom, Helen is making this harder than it needs to be. She is my attorney. She was Dad's attorney." "You said that before." "Because it matters." Ashley leaned forward. "Linda, delay can cost money." "How?" "Probate fees, taxes, property issues. The house passes outside probate." Both of them went still. Daniel recovered first. "Who told you that?" Helen. His mouth flattened. You went behind my back. I stared at him. It is my house. He began pacing. This is exactly what I mean. You're making emotional decisions because you don't trust the people closest to you. I came to dinner. That's not trust. What would trust look like? Signing the documents so I can protect you. Emma stood abruptly. I'm going upstairs. Ashley snapped, sit down. Emma froze. I looked at her. It's all right, sweetheart. No, Daniel said. She needs to hear this. We are trying to keep this family together. Emma's eyes filled, but she sat. I folded my hands in my lap. What happens if I say no? Daniel stopped pacing. No one said you couldn't. That wasn't my question. He looked at Ashley, then back at me. We may need to consider whether you are thinking clearly. The room went silent. Even the refrigerator seemed to stop humming. I nodded slowly. So hesitation proves incapacity. That's not what I said. It is very close. Ashley's voice became firm. We are concerned about your safety and the home equity. Daniel slammed the folder onto the table. Why are you twisting this? I'm asking questions. You never used to question me like this. That sentence revealed more than he intended. I stood and picked up my purse. I need time. How much? A few days. Daniel stepped toward me. We don't have a few days. Why? He did not answer. Ashley looked away. I kissed Emma's forehead before leaving. At the door, Daniel lowered his voice. Mom, don't let Helen turn you against your own family. I'll keep that in mind. Outside, the cold air felt clean. I walked halfway down the driveway, then stopped near my car. Through the partly open dining room window, I heard Daniel. She knows something. Ashley answered, not enough. We need the transfer before probate closes. She'll sign. She looked confused. My hands tightened around my keys. Then Emma appeared at the side gate. Grandma. She was wearing no coat. I opened my car door and pulled a blanket from the back seat around her shoulders. They already promised the house to someone, she whispered. What do you mean? Dad told a lender he'd have access to the equity after Grandpa died. Do you feel safe? Yes, she swallowed. But if there's money for me, don't let them control it. I held her face between my hands. They won't. When I reached home, Helen answered on the first ring. They brought the documents, I said. Did you sign? Number. Good. I want a family meeting. For what purpose? To read Robert's final estate instructions. Helen understood immediately. And Daniel, he should believe he is coming to learn what he inherited. The next morning, Daniel texted. I'm sorry dinner became emotional. I only want what Dad would have wanted. I read it twice. Then I replied, Helen will explain Robert's final instructions Friday at my house. Please bring Ashley. His answer arrived in less than a minute. We'll be there. My son arrived at dinner believing my grief had softened me. He left believing he had almost won. Both beliefs were exactly what I needed. Friday arrived gray and cold. By 4 p.m, the sky over Columbus looked like a sheet of brushed steel. Wind moved dead leaves across the driveway in dry, scratching circles. I spent the morning preparing the living room. Not decorating, preparing. Robert had always believed important conversations should happen at a table where people could see one another's hands. So I cleared the dining room completely. No flowers, no family photographs, no bowl of fruit softening beneath the window. Only 6 chairs, a pitcher of water, legal folders, and 1 sealed envelope placed in front of the chair where Daniel would sit. Helen arrived first. She wore a charcoal suit and carried 2 leather cases. You're certain? She asked. Number. That is not the same as being unprepared. I know. She looked toward Robert's empty chair. Today may permanently change your relationship with your son. It was already changed. I just didn't know it. Emma arrived next. She came alone. Daniel had told her she could stay home, but she insisted. I want to hear it myself, she said. Her face was pale. I hugged her. You can leave at any time. I'm staying. At 5:58, a black SUV pulled into the driveway. Daniel entered first. Ashley followed, carrying an expensive handbag and an expression of controlled concern. Daniel glanced at Helen. I thought this was a family meeting. It is, I said. Then why is she here? Because your father requested legal counsel. That quieted him. He sat where I had placed the envelope. Ashley chose the chair beside him. Emma sat across from them. Helen remained at the end of the table. For one moment, no one spoke. The clock above the kitchen doorway ticked with irritating clarity. Daniel finally leaned back. So what did Dad leave? No greeting, no question about how I was doing. Straight to the inheritance. Helen opened the first folder. Robert Mercer's estate plan was updated 6 months before his death. Daniel looked at me. You knew about this. Number, Helen continued. The marital residence passed entirely to Linda through joint ownership with right of survivorship. It is not part of probate. Daniel's mouth tightened. Fine. Robert's retirement accounts and life insurance proceeds also passed to Linda under existing beneficiary designations. Ashley shifted in her chair. And the trust? Helen looked at her. What trust? Ashley realized too late that she had moved ahead of the script. Daniel answered quickly. Mom mentioned something at dinner. Helen opened another document. The Mercer Education and Security Trust currently holds $742,184.63. Emma drew in a small breath. Daniel leaned forward. Who controls it? An independent corporate trustee. For whose benefit? Emma Mercer. The silence that followed felt physical. Daniel looked at his daughter, then at me, then back to Helen. All of it. Yes, that makes no sense. Ashley spoke sharply. Emma is a minor. For another 7 months, Helen said. Distributions remain subject to the trust terms regardless of age. Daniel's face flushed. What about us? You are not beneficiaries. He laughed once. A short, hollow sound. This is insane. Emma looked down. I could see her fingers tightening beneath the table. Daniel turned to me. You're going along with this. The trust is irrevocable. You can challenge it. I won't. His eyes hardened. Dad manipulated you even after death. No, your father protected what he believed needed protection. From whom? I looked directly at him. You. Ashley pushed back from the table. That is completely unfair. Helen placed a document in front of her. This trust was amended after evidence emerged that Daniel attempted to use Robert and Linda's home as collateral for a business loan. Daniel's head snapped toward me. You went through my private records. They were in your father's file. He had no right. He had every right to investigate a forged signature. Emma looked up. Forged. Daniel ignored her. That loan never happened. Because Robert disputed the application, Helen said. Ashley turned to Daniel. You told me the lender changed terms. They did. Helen slid another page forward. This is Robert's written denial. This is the loan application. This is the signature comparison. Daniel's voice rose. This is not a courtroom. No, I said. In a courtroom, you would have less control over what happens next. He stared at me. I had never spoken to him that way before. Not once in 36 years. He looked almost confused by it. Then he noticed the sealed envelope. What's that? I placed my hand beside it. Your father did leave you something. Greed moved across his face before he could hide it. He reached for the envelope. Inside were copies of every unpaid promissory note, the forged loan application, a formal demand for repayment, and Robert's signed statement documenting years of financial abuse. Daniel flipped through the pages. His expression changed with each one. What is this supposed to be? The total is $183,640, Helen said. Robert's estate reserves the right to pursue repayment. You cannot be serious. I am. He looked at me. You're suing your own son. I am giving you a choice. What choice? Sign a repayment agreement. Enter financial counseling. Stop attempting to access my property or Emma's trust. Withdraw every document connected to Mercer Family Holdings. Ashley's face turned toward him. You said that company was for future planning. It was. You told me your mother had agreed. Daniel slammed the papers down. Not now, Ashley. No, now. Her voice cracked. You told me Robert promised you the house. He did. He never did, I said. Daniel turned on me. You weren't there for every conversation. No, but your father recorded one. Helen placed a small speaker on the table. Daniel's color drained. What recording? I pressed play. His voice filled the room. If you keep blocking me, I'll make sure Mom believes you were hiding everything from her. Then Robert's voice. Calm. Tired. You would use your mother's trust against me. Daniel answered. I'll use whatever works. The recording ended. Emma began crying. Not loudly. That made it worse. Daniel looked at her. Emma, you don't understand the context. What context? She whispered. I was under pressure. You threatened Grandpa. He was controlling everything. Ashley stood. You said he was confused. Daniel snapped, sit down. Number. For the first time, she looked afraid of him rather than aligned with him. He turned back to me. So that's it. You believe a dead man over your living son. I believe documents, recordings, applications, emails, and the papers you put in front of me Sunday night. His face twisted. You owe me. The words came out raw. You and Dad always made me feel like a failure. Every mistake became a file. Every loan became a lecture. We gave you more than $180,000. You gave Emma $742,000. The trust is for her future. And what about mine? You are 36. That doesn't mean I don't need help. No, I said. It means help cannot remain your permanent business model. He stood so quickly the chair fell backward. You made me this way. The old reflex rose inside me. Comfort him. Soften it. Accept some blame before he had to carry any. I let the reflex pass. We did contribute, I said. We rescued you too often. His breathing slowed slightly. He thought I was returning to him. Then I continued. We did not make you entitled by loving you. We made you entitled by protecting you from every result of your choices. His face closed. I pointed to the documents. You have 30 days to sign the repayment agreement. And if I don't, Helen will proceed with civil claims. The forged application may also be referred for investigation. Ashley picked up her handbag. I'm leaving. Daniel stared at her. You're my wife. And you lied to me too. She walked out. A second later, Daniel followed, slamming the front door hard enough to shake the glass. Emma remained at the table, crying into both hands. I moved beside her. This is not your fault. He's my dad. I know. What happens now? He decides whether consequences are enough to change him. After she went upstairs to wash her face, Helen handed me one final note from Robert. I opened it. The last line read, Linda, forgive him when you are ready, but never again confuse forgiveness with access. Robert had left our son no fortune. He had left him the first consequence we had ever allowed to remain unpaid. Daniel did not sign the repayment agreement within 30 days. On the 29th day, he sent Helen an email accusing Robert of manipulating the estate and me of being emotionally compromised by grief. On the 30th, he threatened to contest everything. Helen responded with 12 attachments: the forged loan application, the emails, the proposed power of attorney, the Mercer family holdings documents, my cognitive evaluation, the recording, the promissory notes. At the bottom of her letter, she wrote one sentence. Any legal filing containing knowingly false claims may be referred to the appropriate authorities. Daniel withdrew his threat 48 hours later. There was no dramatic courtroom battle, no judge striking a gavel, no police car outside his house. Real consequences arrived more quietly. The black SUV disappeared from Daniel's driveway first. Then the house itself went on the market. Ashley moved with Emma into a rented townhouse near her school. Daniel took an apartment across town. Their separation was not entirely my son's fault, but it had been waiting beneath years of financial pressure, hidden promises and stories neither of them could keep straight anymore. Emma spent more time with me after that, not because I asked her to choose. I never did. Children remember who turns them into a weapon. I refused to become another adult who did that to her. The trust remained untouched for 7 months. When Emma received her college acceptance letter, the corporate trustee paid tuition directly to the university. No check went through Daniel. No balance appeared in Ashley's account. Emma's housing allowance went to the school. Her books were paid through an approved education account. Robert had built protection into every line. I used to think his caution was cold. Now I understood that structure can be a form of love. I stayed in the house. For the first few weeks, every room felt too large. I still woke at 5:45 because Robert's schedule had lived inside me longer than I realized. Some mornings I reached toward his side of the bed before remembering. Other mornings I lay still and listened to the maple branches scrape against the window. Grief did not leave. It changed weight. At first it was a wall against my chest. Later it became something I carried in one hand while learning to use the other again. I changed the locks. Not because Daniel had threatened me physically, because he still had an old key. I changed the garage code, account, passwords, emergency contacts, and every document that once assumed family automatically meant trust. It felt cruel the first day, necessary the second. Normal by the third month. Daniel's messages came in waves. Some were angry. You chose Dad over me. Emma will hate you when she understands. You destroyed this family. I did not answer those. Then came silence. Weeks passed. On a Thursday evening in March, he sent something different. I thought you would always fix it. I read the sentence while standing at the kitchen counter. No accusation, no legal threat, no mention of money, just truth. The most honest thing my son had said in years. I answered. That is why I had to stop. He did not respond. But he did not ask for anything either. The next Thursday, I drove to the cemetery. Winter had begun to loosen its grip on Ohio. Patches of dirty snow remained beneath the trees, but the ground smelled damp and alive. I carried Robert's brown leather folder under my arm. Inside were a copy of the trust statement, his final letter, and the key to box 317. His grave marker was still too new. The stone looked pale and untouched, as if it had not yet learned our history. I brushed dead leaves away from the base. You should have told me, I said. The wind moved through the bare branches. No answer. Of course not. You should have trusted me with the truth. My voice broke. Then I sat on the cold bench beside his grave and opened the letter one last time. Near the end, Robert had written, You will think I did this alone because I did not trust you. The truth is, I trusted your heart too much. Please protect Emma, and please protect yourself. I pressed the page flat against my knee. You were right about him, I whispered. That admission hurt, not because Daniel was beyond hope, because Robert had carried the knowledge alone, while I kept asking him to doubt his own eyes. But you were wrong about one thing. I looked at his name carved into the stone. I was strong enough to know the truth. That afternoon, I went to First Community Bank. Susan Blake met me in the same private office. The room looked exactly as it had the morning she handed me the sealed file. Same polished desk, same quiet clock, same brass lamp, but I was not the same woman sitting across from her. I'd like to close the weekly transfer instructions, I said. Susan nodded. The trust will continue under its own terms. I know. She processed the paperwork. Then she placed the key to box 317 on the desk. Would you like us to maintain the box? I looked at the small brass key. For 28 years, Thursday had carried a secret through my marriage. A secret Robert believed would protect the future. It had. But I no longer wanted protection built from silence. No, I said. I'm ready to close it. We emptied the box. I kept the brown folder. The rest went into Helen's secure records. Months later, with part of my life insurance proceeds, I created a small financial education fund through the County Women's Center. It helped widows and older women review powers of attorney credit reports, estate documents, and family loans before kindness became leverage. I named it the Mercer Family Protection Project. Not after Daniel, not even after Robert. After the family we might still become if truth was finally allowed inside it. Daniel and I are not healed. We speak occasionally. He has started financial counseling and made 3 small payments toward the debt. I do not praise him for doing what responsibility requires. But I notice that is different. I still love my son. Love did not disappear when access ended. It simply stopped signing blank pages. My husband went to the bank every Thursday for 28 years because he believed the future needed protection. What he never fully understood was that I did too. The $742,000 was not the greatest thing he left me. The truth was. And truth once opened is a kind of inheritance no one can take. If you have ever realized that protecting someone you love was also protecting them from responsibility, share the moment that opened your eyes. And if this story reminded you that boundaries can exist without destroying love, subscribe for more stories about women who learn to protect their families without disappearing inside them. On the last Thursday, I walked out of the bank carrying no sealed file, only the life my husband had tried to protect.